For decades after the Cold War, the global North viewed Africa primarily as a geopolitical periphery, a backdrop for aid and diplomacy, rather than a central player in the global economy. But the worldwide push to move away from fossil fuels has triggered a sharp demand for the critical minerals required to build batteries, solar panels, and wind turbines. We are tearing into the earth at a massive scale to secure these elements. This chart of global critical mineral production shows exactly who controls that supply. The blue and green bars demonstrate the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Africa, holding an overwhelming market dominance in cobalt, manganese, and platinum. This makes the continent the primary bottleneck for the green transition. This dependency has created a new level of leverage. Wealthy nations can no longer secure their own industrial futures without cooperating with the governments that physically control these reserves. The modern scramble for these resources relies on logistics. It is a race to build the physical arteries, the roads, railways, and ports needed to move materials from inland mines to the oceans. This surge in extraction is creating friction. Recent survey data shows that 82% of African business executives view global geopolitical tensions as a high risk to their operations. Those 63% remain confident in the continent's long-term economic trajectory. Global superpowers are now competing to finance and control the power grids and transport networks that funnel these resources out. This creates a tension for the continent. Allow these resources to be extracted as they have been for a century, shipping container by shipping container, or seize control of the physical corridors themselves. The global competition of the 21st century is infrastructural. Whoever controls the physical logistics controls the flow of the global economy. China recognized this reality early. Through their Belt and Road Initiative, they purchase mineral rights while simultaneously building the physical hardware needed to extract them. Looking at the data on major investments, you can see how China has integrated African trade routes into its own supply chains. State-owned enterprises have poured billions into copper and cobalt infrastructure, upgrading facilities like the Tanzania-Zambia Railway to move materials directly to Chinese-centered networks. Now, the European Union and the United States are launching a counteroffensive. Driven by the need to secure their own supply chains and break this logistical monopoly, they are passing new strategic mineral acts and funding alternative routes. The most prominent example of this Western strategy is the Lobito Corridor. This is a massive U.S.-backed railway project designed to link the mineral-rich regions of the DRC and Zambia directly to ports on the Atlantic Ocean. This creates a geographical rivalry. While Chinese-backed rails push resources east toward the Indian Ocean, the Western-backed Lobito Corridor pulls those same resources west toward the Atlantic. These steel tracks serve as physical markers of opposing global power blocks. Economic dominance is a literal, ground-level race to lay down track and control the physical routes carrying cobalt and lithium to the global market. This competition has expanded far beyond a duopoly between Washington and Beijing. A new wave of middle powers has recognized the stakes and entered the arena to secure their own physical lifelines. Gulf state sovereign wealth funds from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar are acquiring stakes in African ports and logistics hubs. Their goal is to guarantee their own access to food and energy flows. Looking to the sky, Turkey is expanding its footprint by supplying unmanned drones and military hardware to nations like Mali and Chad, pairing this security assistance with infrastructure contracts. Meanwhile, Russia relies on a different approach in the Sahel, deploying paramilitary groups to exploit regional instability and trade security guarantees for direct influence and mineral rights. The result is an increasingly crowded logistical landscape. African trade routes are simultaneously navigating Chinese trains, Western capital, Gulf-owned ports, Turkish drones, and Russian paramilitaries. With so many global powers now bidding for access, the continent functions as a geopolitical marketplace, where governments have the leverage to demand better terms. To use this leverage, African governments are practicing strategic multi-alignment. Instead of choosing a single side, they are playing these global powers against one another. It is a calculated geopolitical arbitrage. A single country can accept financing from the Gulf, technology from China, market access from Europe, and security partnerships from the US, simultaneously to maximize their own advantage. Historically, Africa only participated in the first manufacturing step, extracting raw minerals, while the financial value added at each progressive stage happened elsewhere. Today, African nations are demanding that the middle steps, refining, processing, and manufacturing, stay on the continent, retaining the wealth generated by their resources locally. This graphic surveying the private sector shows how local businesses are navigating this shift. It requires immense operational resilience, driving a pivot towards scenario planning, diversifying suppliers, and building internal defenses to manage the volatility of global trade. This combination of physical infrastructure and strategic maneuvering allows African states to choose the partners that best support their own development goals. The continent's trajectory is now being written on the ground, track by track and port by port, by an increasingly multi-aligned Africa.